you ever thought about how many people you cross paths with on a daily basis? Have you ever considered how many of them are going through this life without a personal relationship with Jesus Christ? When was the last time you took a moment out of your busy schedule to stop and ask someone what they believe and then genuinely listen to them? Not so that you could jump in and tell them everything that you believe or give them a list of all the reasons why what they believe is wrong, but simply to listen. If you were to ask a friend or a coworker what they thought about God's existence or his role in their lives, how do you think that they would respond? Do you even care enough to ask?
Do I believe that there's need for a godly intervention in the world? I wouldn't say so.
I honestly think that there's a higher being, like something, put all this together. And I don't go to church very often, so it's not like a necessity for me. But there's some people need something to rely on.
He's always going to be like that friend that you might need in tough times, and then that friend that you're like, oh, thanks for doing this for me.
Even if you don't believe in God, just having that kind of moral guidelines is a really good thing to have.
One of the greatest things we can ever understand about God is that he is passionate about bringing sinners back into a right relationship with himself. Ever since Adam rebelled against him in the garden and spoiled the perfect communion that existed between God and man, God has been pursuing his fallen creation. The Old Testament records over and over again God's patient and loving pursuit of his chosen people, Israel, who in turn consistently turned their back on him and ran towards other gods. The New Testament describes God sending his one and only Son because of his great love for mankind to seek and save the lost and bring sinners back into fellowship with him. God is on a mission to bring sinners who are at war against him back into a loving relationship with himself. And the amazing thing is that he's decided to use us, sinful human beings, in his mission. What God has been doing since the beginning of time, we now have the opportunity to participate in. Just before Christ ascended into heaven and left his disciples on earth, he told them, "Go and make disciples, baptize them, and teach them everything that I've taught you." I think it's interesting that Jesus didn't say, "Go back into hiding and talk about me for hours and hours and hours." He didn't say, "Go and live a good, wholesome life." He didn't even say, "Go and read your Bibles," or "Go and pray," or "Go and fast for a week and think about all I've told you." Even though every single one of those things is important, I think one of our biggest problems as 21st century disciples is that we're so focused on our own personal growth and our own fellowship with other believers that we've forgotten about the lost. As a result, we've missed God's heart and we've neglected his mission. When Christ said, "Go and make disciples," he wasn't giving his disciples a suggestion, but a command that radically affected every aspect of their lives. In the same way, God has commanded us to take part in his mission to bring the lost back to himself. And this should radically affect every aspect of our lives, which means that our talents, our abilities, our interests, everything that God has given us should be used for the mission. Think about the hundreds of people you cross paths with every single day. How will God's mission affect the way you view them, the way you interact with them, the way you build relationships with them? How will God's mission affect every aspect of your life on this campus and in your city?